When learning pitch accent, we must first understand what pitch accent is and why we learn it. So, what is it? It is comparable to music, like if I were to sing these two songs. Compared to there is of course a obvious difference. Some notes were higher, others not so much. And in Japanese, each word is more or less its own song, like ame versus ame, to distinguish them in spoken speech. Next question, why learn it? See, the Japanese will understand you, don't get me wrong. They are more than likely to get what you mean based on the context, or you showing them the kanji, and won't bully you or something for it. Sure. Then there are many other variations, like Tokyo pitch will be different from Kyushu pitch. Sure, all of that is true, but if you want to sound natural, fluent, or like a native, or whatever it is, you need standard Tokyo pitch. So of course, don't focus on other aspects of the language while neglecting pitch accents, since it doesn't make sense in this case. And I also imply that with pitch only, you won't sound natural. So you can have perfect pitch, but if your grammar is terrible, nobody would understand you, I guarantee you. And so words and grammar are something you should focus on more.
But it's a bit like saying an English word with the accent on the wrong syllable. It's a bit like saying tomorrow rather than saying tomorrow.
Moving on to the 4 pitch patterns. The first one, heiban, which starts low and remains high, and the particle also attaches high. Such words include
米国、海水、森林。
The second pattern is atamadaka. The first mora is high, and everything else, including the attaching particle, are pronounced low. Examples of such words that fall into this category are
世界、水分、猫。
The next one, nakadaka. We pronounce it low in the beginning, then it rises and goes down within the word, and the particle attaches low. Words that are nakadaka include
日本、機械、洗濯機。
The last one, odaka. Words that have this pattern start low, then high, and remain high until we attach a particle. Then it goes back low. Example is
弟、花、橋。
high, low, high is not a valid pitch pattern for words. Like, it doesn't exist. The pitch of a particle is determined by the word it is attached to. With sentences, the first word is the loudest while the last is the quietest. If all of them were to be equal, it won't sound as natural. As you can see from this graph here, which I'll show you, that's how it is. Once a word goes down in pitch, it stays that way. If the first mora is low, the second is high, and that also applies conversely too. And so the first and second syllable always differ in pitch. Of the 10,000 most useful Japanese words, the frequency of each pattern is this. Heiban is used most of the time, 55%, atamadaka 25%, nakadaka 15%, and odaka 5%. So if you're in doubt, guess heiban mostly. Odaka verbs don't exist in standard Tokyo pitch Japanese. They are either heiban, atamadaka, or nakadaka, but not odaka in standard Japanese. Rules for learning pitch accents so you can know most of the time which is which, exceptions included. So many compound words seem to have a tendency to be heiban, like
戦闘、海水、犯罪。
Of course, not all of them, like
日本、
or
機械。
words ending with the kanji meaning language, go, are typically heiban.
ロシア語。
No, I'm from England, America!
イタリア語。
ドイツ語。
日本語。
Words ending with hito are often nakadaka. Words like this have a tendency with the first kana starting low and the word remaining high, but the hito part is low.
ドイツ人。
ロシア人。
韓国人。
But if n comes before jin, the accent goes to the kana that came before n.
イラン人。
スウェーデン人。
But in
日本人。
the accent is on ji. Words ending with teki are heiban. Examples include
内向的。外向的。
心理的
Words ending with ke are also heiban. Here are the examples.
ビジュアル系、
体育会系、
系統
Words that have this shi have the accent before the shi.
鹿島市、
黒石市
Words that have this kanji meaning wash are often heiban.
洗濯、
洗礼
洗剤、
Any verb that ends with tsu has an accent on the second to last beat of the word in their dictionary form.
目立つ、育つ、役立つ、持つ、
Now the bu rule. Bu verbs tend to be heiban like
学ぶ、
遊ぶ、飛ぶ、呼ぶ、
a majority of i adjectives are nakadaka, and the accent is at the mora before the final e. Here are some recordings.
古い、美しい、新しい、楽しい、
Conjugated verbs that end with mas have the accent on ma.
遊びます、起きます、食べます、飲みます
How should you learn pitch accent? You can use TTS, but don't rely on them. I'd rely on slowly spoken speech to learn the pitch of these words. An NHK dictionary for yomitan, or the app if you have the moolah for it, and find sentences that interest me. Here's an example as to why TTS bots are not great.
Z2 のホリデーに勝るものはありません。今なら1人当たり50ポンド。
Now, you can record yourself and compare yourself to natives and see how close your recording is to the other. You could go on Hi Native or go to forvo.com, get the files, and compare yourself. Sure, you can use OGAD and other TTS bots, but I'd rather stick to native recordings from forvo.com or Hi Native or Youglish, and possibly Anki, and review those words so I train my ears. You can also use kotu.io, which is a minimal pairs test. Use that to daily strengthen your ears. Or I have heard some people say Migaku is good. I haven't tried it because it's paid. I'd rather do stuff for free. But if you want to use it, go ahead. Also, since our brains are lazy, what sometimes can happen are little hiccups. One student from Dogen, I believe, has said this tsu rule that applies to verbs. He thought it applies to nouns also, but that's just his brain tricking him. Yeah, such things can happen when you learn pitch accents, so better watch out for that. Now, quiz time. I will now give you recordings and sentences and so on, and you'll guess which word is meant based on that. So here we go.
海苔を紙につけなさい。
神様を信じている。雨、橋、
このクラスの女子は18人です。
新しい、難しい、大きい、戦車。
I hope you did great. I'd advise you to train your ears for this pitch accent thing and not just rely on your ears, because you'd make mistakes with untrained hearing. That's pretty bad. So what I do is watch what I want. When I see a word I want to learn, go to forvo.com and check how to say it, and also use yomitan for the correct pitch and meaning. With all of that being said, huge thanks to Jouzu Juls for giving me feedback on my last video, which was about learning kanji. I really appreciate that, man. That's great stuff. Otherwise, my sources are linked down in the description. If you want to check those out, they're there. Otherwise, see you in the next video. Mata ne!
Gotta get it, homie, gotta move it. If you're gonna do it, then hope need a trigger. Everybody just stop, nobody really do it. Nah, nah, やるまでしとけよ、秘密。誰かと確認なんて不要。